In today's video, I'm going to be showing you the easiest way to see triads across the guitar neck. This video is aimed towards those who are kind of learning triads at the moment, or maybe have learned triads, but can't quite see how they all fit together. And if you're anything like me, what I did when I first learned triads is I simply just played them over and over from position to position, just hoping that if I did that enough times, I would develop the finger memory to just pull them out at any moment that I desire. But the truth is, that works to an extent, but there is an easier way, which is what I'm going to be elaborating on in this video. Now, just before we begin, I just want to mention that if any of the information seems somewhat overwhelming or you're not quite following along 100%, then I definitely recommend that you check out my website, which is linked in the description below, where you'll find heaps of relevant instructional content that will help you massively with these topics. So be sure to check that out. Alright, so the method that I like to use to see triads really quickly across the neck, and in fact anything across the neck, is the CAGED system. Now, if you haven't heard of the CAGED system, it's essentially 5 positions, 5 chords, which are movable shapes across the neck that all relate to each other, which essentially allows you to see the entire neck with just 5 simple positions. And these positions are open chords that you already know. And the open chords are, if you haven't already guessed it, C, A, G, E, D, in that specific order. And of course, after D, you can loop back to C, and no matter where you start, the order of the chords are always going to be in that order. So here's how we go about this. Let's try and find the A chord, the open A chord here, in 5 different positions on the neck. So this is known as the A position, simply because it is an A chord, it's an A shape. And if we replace the nut with our first finger, that's the kind of thing that we would get here, and therefore that's a movable shape. So this shape is an A shape, no matter where I put it, okay? Now after the A shape comes the G shape, right? C, A, G. So the G shape, we're essentially taking the open G chord, which is the G shape. We're going to replace the nut with our first finger, okay? Kind of acting like a capo if you like. And therefore, once again, this is a movable shape. Now let's keep it relevant to the A chord. So we've established that this is the A shape. The G shape is linked to that. It's right next to it. It starts from this A note at the top here, and we have... There we go. It's a little bit awkward for the fingers, but nonetheless, that is the G shape. What I like to do, I make it a bit easier by actually just playing the top 4 strings. I find that a bit more natural for my fingers and a bit more practical to use as well. But in your head, you just want to be mindful that the G shape does extend across all 6 strings. Now take a moment to look at how these shapes connect to each other. You'll notice that the right wall of the A shape, aka the first finger, connects to the left wall or the left side of the G shape. And you should hopefully be able to clearly see how they connect in terms of root notes as well. So you'll notice that with the A shape, you have 2 root notes, the A string and the octave here, which you'll also find in the G shape, where you share the same root note here on the G string, as well as the new root notes which we've added for the G shape. Let's move on from there. Now you might be thinking already, hang on a moment, what is this to do with triads and seeing them across the neck? I will get there. Listen carefully, okay, because this is all relevant, and when I get to the punchline at the end, you'll be like, ah, I see now. So pay close attention, make sure you're not missing any of these details, okay? So we have A shape, G shape, same chord, just a different way of playing it. Next up, after G, we have C, A, G, E, E shape, starting from the same root note here, okay? And the E shape is very familiar to you, hopefully. It's just your typical kind of bar chord shape, and that comes from, once again, your E chord, your open E chord. That's your E shape right there. And once again, I'm replacing the nut with my first finger to act as a bar and bringing that up to the relevant root note. And since the E chord starts on the E string, that's where we're going to start. And remember, try not to confuse E shape with the A chord. We're talking about shapes and chords here. So this is an E shape, but an A chord. And once again, just take a moment to see the root notes within this shape. So we have one here, which is the octave, and then one at the bottom. And pay attention to how that links to the G shape. how they kind of merge together. So again, the right wall of the G shape merges with the left wall of the E shape. Moving on from here, we have one more shape to go through, which is the D shape. So after your E shape comes D, of course. And once again, if we take our open D chord, now we need to replace the nut here, the D string, with our first finger. So you need to adjust your fingers to this kind of shape. Obviously this is doing nothing for now, but just for the demonstration here, this is now a movable shape, okay? And we're gonna use the root note that we found on the D string in the E shape to start off this A chord with a D shape. So there we go. And once again, take a moment to see how that connects with the E shape to the D shape. Now there's one more shape that we need to do. I already said that, my mistake, but this time for real, which is of course C. We didn't do C because we started on the A shape, because we can't do the C shape before that because we've ran out of frets. So here we are from the D shape. We're gonna do the same as we've previously done by taking an open C shape chord. Okay, we're gonna replace the nut with our first finger to make it movable, acting like a capo. And we're going to take that all the way up to the relevant note, which in this case is the A. So we would have, there we go, that's our C shape. And as usual, just take a moment to see how they connect, the C and the D shape there. And of course this loops, so we've hit the 12th fret, and after that we play the same shapes, just an octave up. So from the C shape, after the C shape comes the A shape, then your G shape, E shape, and so forth. Now I recommend that not only do you get familiar with these shapes so that you can just kind of bounce between them on request, I recommend that you also look out for the root notes. Those are key. So you want to be able to see all of your root notes real quick in relevance to the shapes that we've just learned. So and as I did that, I was always mindful in my head of which shape these root notes come from. Now I recommend that you give this principle a try in multiple keys. We've done it in the key of A, of course, but perhaps you want to start in the key of C or D or E or any key, it really doesn't matter. But just get familiar with this idea across the fretboard. Maybe you could cycle the circle of fourths or fifths and go through every single key, starting off with your lowest available position and working your way all the way up to around the 12th fret. Now with this in mind, let's jump back to the original topic and overall question, which was how do you see triads easily and quickly across the neck? Well, check this out. All of these chords are based on your simple closed position triad shapes. So let's take, for example, your E shape. You'll notice that this is built from a series of triads here. At the top here, that's not a triad, that's a power chord. But with the G shape, merging into the A shape there at the end, which is also built from a series of triads. You have the C shape here on the 12th fret. These are all triads which just come from each of these caged shapes. And hopefully some of these triad shapes are already familiar with you. So if we wanted to play an A major triad here, a root position starting on that root note, here we are, a root position closed triad, which comes from the E shape, okay? And I want to play the next available triad up the neck in a horizontal fashion. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look ahead and I'm going to think, okay, after my E shape comes my D shape, which falls around here, and then my C shape, which falls here. And the C shape contains the next available triad, which is this one here. So you can see that's your root note there, but obviously I'm not playing that because that's not part of the shape that we're going for here. So this would be a first inversion because we're starting on the 3rd degree. So we've gone from root position to first inversion. Now, what about the second inversion? So again, I want to go horizontally here. I'm going to look out for the next available position on the neck. So we'll go from C position to A position, and you'll notice, here you go, where those fingers are, that's your next triad shape. So really quickly and easily I can see these triad shapes easily across the neck, okay, and that's on one string set. Now you can do this with any string set. So let's choose the bottom string set here, for example. Let's find the lowest available triad in the key of A. So we would have, which comes from the open A, aka the A shape. The next available triad comes from, we have the A shape, the G shape. Well, that's not a triad. That's more of a power chord. So the next available triad is this one here, which comes from the E shape. Okay, and then after that, what comes after E? We have your D shape. And once again, there's 3 notes here, and that's your next triad. So we got root position, first inversion, second inversion, and then we're back to your root. So there you have it. Now once again, I recommend that you try this in multiple keys and even try and combine a short chord progression. So let's say, for example, the 1 and the 4 chord. And providing that you can see your CAGED shapes clearly, you should be able to figure this out quite quickly. So let's say we want to go from the 1 here to the 4, which is D major. Okay, so we know that we have that root position triad for the 1 chord here, and then that bar for the 4 chord, which comes from the A shape. Okay, that's your second inversion. Now in my head, if I wanted to transpose this into a different area of the neck, I would be thinking, okay, what are the next available positions? Well, we already know the 1 chord reoccurs here, which comes from the C shape. But what about the 4 chord? So we need to link it up from the A shape to the G shape to the E shape here, and here you go. There's that triad in the middle. So again, we have 1 chord, 4 chord. Okay, and as you can see, I can work my way all around the neck based on just being able to see these CAGED shapes. I guess you could think of it as kind of like a mind map across the neck to help you see these intervals and shapes very quickly. So give this a try yourself, and the same approach works with minor triads, diminished triads. Hang on a minute. It looks better when the screen's on in the back. There we go. You can do the same with minor, diminished, augmented. The same rules apply, providing that you know the formula of the triad that you're going for. So with a major triad, of course, all of these CAGED shapes are built from 1, 3, and 5. If you wanted minor, it would be 1, flat 3, 5. So all you have to do is take each CAGED shape, find the third, and flatten it. Okay, same with the G shape here. We're going to take the third, the major third, and flatten it. And there you go, you have all of your minor triad shapes. Similarly for diminished, you should know that the formula is 1, flat 3, flat 5. So again, you would base these CAGED shapes off of that formula to help you find all of the diminished triads across the neck. And you know where I'm going with this. So providing you know the formula and you're comfortable with the CAGED shapes, you can see absolutely anything that you want across the neck. So that just about sums up everything that I want to share in this video. I hope you managed to take a few things away from this. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you found yourself getting a bit lost amongst the information that I shared, then perhaps you want to consider checking out my website, which is linked in the description below, where you'll find heaps of instructional content about these very topics and more, where I'll go into a lot more detail and thoroughness on how you can understand them and actually use these concepts in your own playing. So there we go. That's everything that I gotta say, so I will see you in the next video.